Hey guys, welcome to a new market update video. I'm recording this a bit earlier on Saturday as I'm heading out for token 2049 in Singapore today. So therefore prices might have changed a bit, although we closed our CME gap at roughly 59.8k, and that's about what we're trading at right now. So I doubt much is going to change until Monday when you see this, but who knows. Anyways, we're gonna focus on the high time frame anyways, like we have been doing, as this low time frame has been super choppy. But we ended off Friday with a very good day. Stocks were up, gold was up, everything was up. Bitcoin also managed to push higher, and a lot of alts did as well. The ETFs for Bitcoin had their biggest inflow in weeks or even months, so that's decent. Like it was 268 mil or something in net inflows. The ETH inflows are still kinda just not doing anything. Like there's barely any in or outflows. So we'll just see how that ends up playing out. But we talked about the 0.786 Fibonacci retracement having a lot of impact this cycle. And yet again, we did front run it by like $100 or something, but we ended up bouncing here through the weekend, and since then, the entire week, it has basically trended up. So from this bottom, at this point we're up like 14% already. So that makes for a very nice weekly candle so far, and just pushing us back into the range or whatever you want to call it, making a proper higher low, and also closing above the 200 daily EMA, which is the blue line. The real test, or like the real level to break, will be roughly this 64 to 65k area. So we're pretty far off as of this point. But upon doing so, that would make a new higher high above this high from, like 2 weeks ago at this point, 2-3 weeks ago. And that would really turn this market structure around by making a higher high, higher low. And then I'd be pretty confident that we can attack this level again, and that at that point we will break it. This is a key level to break going into next week. Of course, who knows, maybe we top out somewhere around here, we make another lower high. At that point, it's going to be a guessing game, because here we have a lower high and a higher low. So it could be that we just start consolidating at that point, making just a few more higher highs, higher lows, lower highs and higher lows, and then make some form of pennant or triangle, and then at some point get the proper breakout. I doubt it's gonna be taking that long though, because summer has ended, volumes are up, liquidity is up. We're gonna get the elections in November. We're gonna have the first rate cut this Wednesday. And I just think there's gonna be quite a lot of volatility, and I really don't see us ranging anymore for like several months out. Let's see. I think we're gonna see a decision pretty soon. My long-term bias is, of course, still bullish. I don't see a reason why this cycle should have topped. And I think we're now finally seeing some strength again throughout all the carnage we have seen. And as well, like the best bearish argument at this point is, okay, it should go down because it's September. Well, at this point in September, the market is actually up after being down like 11%. So that argument is out of the window as well at this point. We're only halfway, but the market is looking decent. Like it doesn't look like it wants to dive straight back to 40k at this point, as some people are saying it will. Additionally, with this Fed rate cut coming up this Wednesday, which is the 18th from the top of my head, it's still a coin toss between doing 25 or 50 BPS, which is like a quarter or a half percentage point. It was edging more towards a quarter, but then they reached out to like this. There's this guy Nick from the Wall Street Journal, and I think the Federal Reserve tends to message him something that it's when they want to communicate a decision to the audience or to the market, they will just message him and say, okay, write something about us thinking about doing this or whatever. And then that's usually what they want to do, but they want to also communicate it in advance to the market, so it's not going to be like a big shock when it happens. So that tends to happen a lot, and they did that as well. So that's when the odds skewed from like 80% chance of 25 BPS to like 50% now. And I think that's just gonna improve, especially if they put out more hints or whatever. I do think a half percentage cut is the right thing to do looking at the economy, but I also think it might temporarily scare the market a bit, as people might think it's going to be a hard landing or whatever. But in the end, this should only help against such a hard landing, and I think it's going to be the best bet. But we'll see. At this point, it's a coin toss, so it's going to be an exciting week for sure, depending on what happens there. With that, we're moving on. Gonna go through the rest of it pretty quickly, as not too much has really changed. We are back into the upper half of this channel or whatever, so it looks decent. Just needs to get back above this area we just talked about, like 64, 65k, also corresponds with the upper side of this channel. Total market cap held where it should have, so we have this low, lower high, higher low, and now we need to make the higher high approximately at this level, and also above this April 2022 high. I want to see us trade back above here. Total 2 held at the daily 200 EMA, held nicely, higher low, also back above the 850 or 856 billion level. Looks decent, but here as well, we just need to make a higher high. ETH basically just ranging between roughly 2800 and 2150-ish. Not too much going on here. I think anything in between here will just be choppy. And eventually we will have to break above 2800 to really get things going. Bitcoin dominance still trending up. Not great for alts generally, but it's also mainly because ETH is just really weak. So this is mostly just ETH losing dominance. I do think it's good if Bitcoin takes off first if we really want to break higher. So not too much going on there. And then a few interesting alts. So Tau is interesting to me because, I mean, AI is still the talk of the town. Like, everyone is talking about AI. This is one of the coins that performed well so far this cycle. Came down a lot, of course, but I'm mostly interested in this bottoming structure. So you can see we have this initial drive down in July. Then we had the big dump in August last month, which we all know, like that was when BTC went sub 50. Recovered since then. Came down, and now we have made this higher low on basically everything last week and looks to want to go higher. So at this point, very similar to BTC, although these things get there earlier, I think, where you want to break above these highs here and then properly change the market structure around. At that point, you have a higher high, you have a higher low, and that's when you can really start trending back up. And test some of these levels which were made earlier in this cycle. AVAX, watching this as we're pretty close to a breakout, although this line is not matching up. There we go. So depending on how you draw it, we're pretty close to a breakout. If you take the high here, you already have it. But regardless, this is I want to see it above 30 or 31 first, or not first, but that would be proper confirmation. But things like these, like, they do seem to want to go, but we just need that market structure break now on these higher time frames. Doge, same thing, breaking out of a long-term downtrend line all the way from March. You can see just the downtrend really stalled here for the past few months. It just failed to break lower. Of course, you got the August dump here as well, and then this higher low last week. So all in all, you can see how similar all these levels are with these 3 drives down, of which the last one is a higher low, and now things are trying to break higher, but we do really need that last push to get things going again. Binance or BNB, still the same story as the others. Overall, this has been pretty strong throughout the cycle. I mean, it's not that far off the all-time highs. CC is expected to be released in 2 weeks or so at the end of September. So just the narrative itself there, I think, will push this up a bit, although I think the trade is a bit crowded. But still, I think you should see a decent move. And just this coin is always strong in general. It's one of the bigger market caps, so would be good to see these major caps being strong as a sign of strength for the overall market. Chainlink came down all the way to test its previous range. after a nice run up earlier this year. I would want to see this green zone being retaken. At that point, I'd say, okay, this is just a big deviation below here, and it is ready to move higher. Ondo finally starting to try and break through this downtrend, which it has been. Still one of the best performers this cycle so far, but obviously came down a lot from the highs. Would want to see this being the higher low we were looking for after this big flush, also in August, of course. And right now you can see it's trying to break out of this downtrend. We also have the 4-hour 200 MA and EMA sitting right above here. So I'd say break above this and it can start moving higher, but the key level here. Also to hold this breakout, you don't want to see it fall back down below this downtrend again. Then a few coins we talked about in the past 1 or 2 weeks. Pair looks decent. We got this, I'd say, double deviation down. Looks like the higher low or the test of the range, and now it's looking to head higher into the range again. Also something to look at, if we draw the downtrend line all the way from the March highs here, you can see this one is also trying to break out. Of course, it does have 3 touch points, so it's decent. So here as well, you can see trying to break out, getting back into the range. All these coins need is just some supportive price action from Bitcoin to really get things going again. Then we have Mantra or Om. Did break back above this 105 level after here as well. You know it. We've seen this on basically all charts now, although this one was a bit more compressed. But we have these 3 drives, of which in August... Oh, by the way, this one is a bit different, sorry. Because this was the August 5 dump, so this one did one on its own. But same kind of bottoming structure. And here, this might be, although this is on a different time frame, might be what you're looking for here. Because you have this similar structure, and then you have this break higher to make a higher high. So that's kind of what we're looking for in this case, where Ohm will be trading here now, if you compare it, for example, to Tau. So that's basically it in that regard. Then we have Clearpool following our doodle pretty well. Since this initial flush down, we have been looking for this to make a higher high and a higher low. Well, it did that, made another higher low and another higher high. So you can clearly see this thing is trending back up, but now it's just trying to get above this daily 200 MA, and the final boss will be this 200 MA, or this was the EMA, sorry, the blue one, and the MA up here, which is above this 16 cents level. I think if we get above here, should be good for quite a bit higher. Probably go test these highs from June and maybe all the way up here from March, but this is the level to break. But so far trending up, so looking decent. And Popcat is another one we talked about. So we had this volume profile drawn out, and it was trading... Where were we trading when I recorded this? Somewhere around here. So we were right at this level. So you can see how most volume traded down at this, let's say, 58 cents level. And I was saying, okay, from here, it's either gonna choose, well, it's probably gonna chop between here, if it's caught between this range. And at that point, if you break above here, you're probably heading higher. And if you're breaking below here, you're probably heading much lower, because at this point you can see this is pretty thin up here, as well as this area up here is pretty thin. So decided to break upwards, of course, with the rest of the market, and you can see how it tends to move quite violently, as this one is still one people look to ape in on every risk on movement. So right now, I mean, the area up here is pretty thin. You just want to see it make a higher high here above 80 cents, and then you have the same thing which we're looking for on all these coins, which is a change of trend. I mean, this thing technically already did it with a few higher highs and higher lows. So you just want to keep that going, and then you know how it goes. At some point you really form a nice uptrend, and of course above $1 it's back into price discovery, so that's usually when things really accelerate. But good one to watch. And of course your line in the sand in this case would be approximately this 58 cents level, as below there I think this would look pretty ugly if it gets accepted below here. But that's the case for all of these things whenever they tend to break out of their range. All right, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed. I mean, not that much updated, except for us having shown quite a lot of strength since last week, so this is nice. We made a proper higher low. The challenge from now on will just be, okay, can we get above the 65k level? I don't care so much about what the alts do in the meantime. Like, yes, it's nice. They're going to go up with BTC if it goes up. But BTC will have to lead us out of this range, chop, consolidation, whatever you want to call it. And this 65, 64k area is key. If we do that, we're most likely also going to test this area. And seeing how many times this has tested it, where we came from, the fact that we swept all the liquidity below, I would be pretty certain if we get above here and we start consolidating here, that at some point you're just going to get this mega candle and it's back into price discovery. I just don't see this level holding yet again if we get there. But the 65k for now is key. At that point, we've broken the market structure. We're back above the day 200 MA, back above the bull market support band. If I go real quick on weekly, that's also trading up there, which you can see here. Well, it's a bit lower, but also roughly that area. We have the range, of course, or the channel up here as well. So at that point, you just break everything. The trend has shifted. A lot of algorithms, etc., are going to trade on that, and just overall momentum after being down in the slumps for so long. I think it's going to push us above all-time highs pretty easily. But yeah, I mean, right now it's not that far off. Like, it's a 10% move. But on the other side, of course, we know 10% down and you're basically back at the lows. It's going to look awful again. So that's why I keep focusing on the higher time frames here, because no one knows what's going to happen. We have had a lot of volatility, like every day or every few hours we move like 5%. So that's why it's better to focus on the high time frame, because at this point I can say, okay, yes, we're definitely going to get there and it's looking good. But I mean, I know the next hour it can be down like 5% and it's going to look awful again. And that's why you also see the sentiment flip-flopping that much. So with these levels in mind, I'm going to wish you all good luck, especially with FOMC, with the rate cuts next week. It's going to be exciting for sure. I think there's also going to be a lot of content from Singapore, from all of CT, which seem to be attending. So that's going to be interesting as well. So I wish you all a good week ahead and take care. Bye-bye.